he had a real serious injury from someone that was, mad at something he wrote, and it happens, man. It's a part of the job, but I think the people that the real greats, I think they understand that if you're doing it for the right reason and you're actually trying to uplift the culture, it's not going to be any need for that, But yeah, of course, people care about this stuff, and there is a certain part of the media that exploits things and whips shit up and tries to get clicks. Especially now, the internet is all clickbait, they call it. I mean, there's a funny story actually. One of the moments that I kind of crossed paths with Nip, I was not. It's complicated, but basically, do you remember when he tweeted "fuck Complex"?
Yeah,
it was kind of a legendary tweet. Yeah. So what happened was Complex was one of the first major websites that was supporting him, and then they kind of took a turn where they started getting a little snarky with the lists. And I was working there at the time, actually. I had been music editor. After Vibe folded, 2009, I was at BET, and then I was at Complex. I was a music editor. And I was keeping it thorough, but then I ended up changing my role, and I was doing more special projects and stuff. But in that time, when I was still with Complex, they had done a list called, like, the top underachieving rappers, right? It was basically their way of, kind of poking fun, like, why hasn't these people dropped a record in a while? We like them, but we haven't heard anything from them. And it was people like, who was that guy? Lost in the Bread Aisle. What was? There was a few.
Asher Roth.
Yeah, Asher Roth was on there. The Sonic the Hedgehog dude. That always wore pink outfits.
Charles Hamilton.
Charles Hamilton. It was cats like that, right? Yeah. So there was people that they were like, why haven't they dropped in a while? And Nip was included on that list. And he didn't say anything, but he was not happy to be on the list. And then
I can imagine he was
it so happened. yeah. There's a difference between Asher Roth and Nipsey Hussle, right? There's a difference. Like, this is no shade on Asher Roth or Charles Hamilton, but there's a big difference in what Nipsey Hussle was working on at that time. This was 2012. So he had stepped away from Epic Records situation, stepped away from the management situation that went with that major label deal, started his marathon movement, took all of the repercussions that might come with something like that, with those bold moves, going 100% indie, dealing with real street shit. And so, he didn't drop for a while because there was real things he had to take care of. So he was like, okay, so Complex dissed me after I, have given them big interviews in the past and whatever. But then the funny thing was he was just about to drop the Crenshaw project, and no one knew it. So as soon as that came out, Jay bought the records, bought the 100 CDs. Suddenly the whole industry is on his dick, right? Everybody's like, oh, my God, Nipsey Hussle.
Everybody jumped the bandwagon.
Exactly.
Right.
So somebody at Complex, actually a cool guy that I know, Angel Diaz, who is a Nip fan and did not know about the list, because Complex is a big company. There's a lot of people that work there. So he emails Nip's management saying, I'm a big fan, and would you do an interview for Complex? We'd love to talk about the Crenshaw project. And that's when Nip was like, oh, hell no, because you all just dissed me on this list, a few weeks back, and now you're emailing me that you're a big fan. And he just, bear in mind, he sold $100,000 worth of CDs in one night, so he's kind of feeling himself. So he tweets, fuck Complex, 10 racks for an interview, or stop emailing my management, So obviously that was like a 10 alarm fire in the Complex office. Like, big rapper is dissing you on Twitter. That's a big deal for the brand, for a digital brand. And so the little meeting was held, and my contribution to that conversation was to say, just let him talk his shit. Like, reach out to the right people, you know, speak to the people that can talk to him that he trusts. I think Karen Civil actually is the one that brokered this conversation and said, look, Nip, we didn't mean anything bad by this. Yeah, you know, let's have this conversation. So anyway, Angel Diaz did get to do the interview, and if you Google Nipsey Hussle Complex, it's the first thing that comes up. He was so pissed off for the whole interview, you could tell. It's like different from most of his interviews because he's usually very on message, very focused. He's still on message, but he doesn't hold back his anger. Like, he usually doesn't show as much emotion in interviews. He was very strategic in his communication with the press. But this one interview, if you go back and check it out, that Fuck Complex interview was kind of a low-key classic because he was saying, like, there's a difference between these other rappers and what I do. And it's the same message that he put out on his first single of Victory Lap, which was a record that he had in the stash for years. He knew this was going to be my first single. He didn't care what was hot on radio, what was banging in the club. He's like, my first statement on my first album, when I finally do my deal with a major on my terms, owning everything and doing it, you know, without getting punked by the industry, I'm going to say, I ain't nothing like you fucking rap ends, you know? So that was his basic point, even from the time he did the Complex interview. Like, don't confuse me with people that are just in the rap industry. Like, he was doing something different. And I have to say, you know, we talked about fuck the middleman. It's a very powerful philosophy. And one of the things
because we got
one of the things real quick.
Another thing to talk about too. Go ahead. Because we got another thing we got to touch on too.
But
Go ahead.
I can't leave this out. One of the most important things in my book, The Marathon Don't Stop, is that for the first time you get to understand where Nip got that idea from. And there's an important person in his journey who's never been heard from before named Dexter Brown. And if you've read the book, you will be familiar with him. But basically, Dexter Brown is a part of the story that's been left out because he was before Nipsey Hussle was even named Nipsey Hussle.